By the beginning of the 20th century, the United States had moved from an agricultural society to an industrial nation. But we still had most of our population living in the rural areas, the small towns, villages, and they were hungry for entertainment. J.W. Kannan leased about a little more than 1,000 acres of land in northern Cabarrus County, where we are today, and about a third of it in southern Rowan. And he was anxious to build what he called a model mill town. So he, in 1906, began building Kannapolis, and the centerpiece was going to be the YMCA. We think the first rough films were shown on small projectors in the auditorium there. Unfortunately, Mr. J.W. Kannan died in 1921, and his youngest son, Charles, became the leader of the mill. But he wanted to honor his father, that he wanted to enlarge the Y. So he began to add on 2 sections, one of which was a movie theater. In 1936, Mr. Kannan set a goal. He wanted a theater that would be the finest movie theater between Washington and Atlanta. They decided to call it the Gym because it was a rare thing, a precious thing, an expensive thing. But it was something that was a source of pride for the whole community.
The Gym, along with 3 other theaters in Kannapolis, were owned and operated by Cannon Mills Company. And they were started for the benefit of their employees, for their entertainment. And it operated that way for many years. Carlisle Rutledge had been recruited by Mr. Kannan sometime in the, I think, late 40s, early 50s, to be the president of Towel City Theaters Incorporated, which was a corporation that they created to operate the theaters, a little bit separate from Cannon Mills Company.
Economic times turned bad for all of these theaters. Prices went up for the films, prices to rent went up. Got to be harder even for good managers to make a profit and keep those prices low. So they struggled on for many years until finally only the Gym was left.
So at that point, they decided they didn't want to be in the movie theater business. So they sold the business portion of the operation to 5 longtime employees. And so that was Mr. Rutledge, Mr. J.K. Whitley, Gladys Hester, Clyde Scarborough, and Mr. Corbin, who was their projectionist. And so when each of those people passed away, the other partners bought their interest until finally in 95, Mr. Scarborough was the last one that was actually involved in operating the theater, and I bought his interest at that time. It was appealing to me. Number one, I grew up in Kannapolis, went to the Gym Theater as a child, so certainly had very fond memories. Historic preservation has been a passion of mine for many years, and so I was interested in being a part of continuing to make sure that the theater itself, the building, was preserved, and the memories that people had made there would continue on into future generations with operating as a movie theater.
I can remember going to the Gym Theater when I shouldn't have been there and getting in trouble. I can remember having probably a first boy-girl date that I actually met somebody in the 6th grade and walked a mile to get to the Gym and went to a Rock Hudson movie, and I thought that's the last time I should ever take a girl to a Rock Hudson movie because I'm not going to look too good.
Movies changed often too. They changed almost every week. They would announce what movie was coming and coming attractions in the newspaper on Sunday. If your name appeared in the ad, at the bottom of the ad, you got a free pass for that particular movie. So that was kind of a big deal. When the newspaper came out on Sunday, I wanted to see if my name was in there, and eventually it was.
I think what stands out the most would be just coming up here with my grandparents. They live very close by, so anytime we come up to see a movie, it was always here at the gym, and getting a popcorn and candy and soda was just a wonderful little treat. Not only was I getting to watch the movie, but also the gym still had pre-roll cartoons on before the movie, so it was like a little double feature, getting to see some Bugs Bunny along with whatever Spider-Man or Batman was playing also that day, so it was a wonderful little treat on top that just none of the other theaters in the area did.
For many years, all of the downtown business district, of course, originally was owned by Cannon Mills, as was the theater itself. Over the years, Mr. Murdoch had bought the downtown property and operated it under Atlantic American Properties and Castle and Cook, and they were never interested in selling individual pieces of property. That was always a concern of mine, that we did not have control of the facility to make sure that it was preserved. So when the city purchased all the property from Mr. Murdoch, they made it known publicly that their intention was to get that property back in private hands, to get it back on the tax books and producing for the city.
We knew when we were looking at our downtown revitalization plans that we wanted the Gem Theater to be a central part of that. When we were thinking about, okay, how do we make the Gem sustainable over the long term so that future generations can enjoy it, we landed on, okay, the city is capable of not just owning and improving the structure, but also running the operational piece of it. Well, when we work with the architect on the master planning part of it, we knew that the exterior of the gym was really important to preserve. That Art Deco style is pretty unique, not just for Kannapolis, but for historic theaters in general. The ticket booth, even though it's, somewhat obsolete in terms of its functionality and how theaters work now, it's important to the architectural integrity of the gym to keep that ticket booth the way it is now as a central piece of the exterior facade of the gym. Of course, the interior, having the balcony and the architecture and light on the inside with the birds on the wall and the curtains and the lighting and all that is important too. The gym is always on the list of our top community assets whenever we do some kind of community input process. And so, we knew that Gem Theater was an important part of downtown, not just because it brings a lot of visitors to downtown in terms of people going to movies, but also that it's part of our community fabric. It's a place where people have their personal memories made, but it's also a piece of our community identity. So when people think of Kannapolis, they think of the Gem Theater in our downtown, and that's important to us in terms of community branding and how that image reflects on our community.
So when people walk into the Gem Theater, we want them to have the experience that they're walking back into the historic theater of old. And we think we've accomplished that. We replaced the curtains, we replaced the projection system, we replaced the sound system, we put in a new screen, we've added new carpet, we've added new curtains and new seats, and seats were one of the priorities for people. So I think people will be really excited to see what we've kept at the Gem. One is the renovation of the seats in the balcony. We took those seats, had them totally reupholstered and repainted. The birds of paradise that are on the walls, we refinished those. We renovated the stage and those kind of items so that we can use the stage for more performances than just movies. Gem Theater has always been known as the showplace of Kannapolis, and we look forward to it being the premier anchor for our entertainment for decades to come.